The Full Melt Show is intended for a mature audience. It contains adult themes, adult content, and sometimes adult language. Listener discretion is advised.
The Full Melt.
Legalize marijuana in the state of Ohio, get it on the ballot. You registered voter? Yeah. Print your first name.
In the heart of Ohio, the famous swing state and political barometer of the nation,
legalize it.
The movement to legalize marijuana is growing like a weed.
You want to sign? Help legalize? Okay.
They have already gathered more than 550,000 signatures across the state, nearly double the requirement to qualify for the November ballot.
If done properly and regulated, tested, and taxed, if you do it the right way, this will become a multi-billion-dollar industry.
Ian James is the executive director of Responsible Ohio.
Fire up! Ready to go!
An operation he's been running out of his Columbus mansion for the past year. Responsible Ohio has a whopping $20 million budget. Responsible Ohio is being bankrolled by some of Ohio's wealthiest residents, from boy band and reality star Nick Lachey to fashion designer Nanette Lepore and retired basketball star Oscar Robertson. And then there's Alan Mooney, a minister and Columbus-based financial advisor. If Responsible Ohio's ballot initiative succeeds, Mooney's 36-acre cornfield outside of Columbus would be one of only 10 sites in the state permitted to grow cannabis. And the investors bankrolling the initiative already control those 10 sites.
I've had people offer me 10 times what I've already invested to buy out my interest.
The exclusive right to grow language is found in the second paragraph of the marijuana legalization amendment. The signature gatherers are not legally required to discuss those details with signers.
Some people have said this is a hijacking of the initiative process.
Well, they're not paying attention to the process in Ohio. We propose to have this conversation in the light of day, with full disclosure of who our investment groups are, and also the plans for what they envision.
Just because you're being transparent about who the investors are, though, still doesn't justify to a lot of people the fact that this very small, elite, wealthy group is essentially monopolizing control of grow operations, at least for 4 years.
Well, it's not a monopoly, because they all have to compete against each other.
But aren't they all under the umbrella of your organization? Didn't they all contribute to your PAC to make sure that you can create a very strong, robust campaign to get them what they want, which is this control of this land?
It's literally to be able to change the Constitution to allow for the growth, cultivation, extraction, and sale of marijuana and possession.
It's incredibly rare for a ballot measure to write into a state's constitution specific locations or areas where only a business can operate, and then those locations to be owned and operated by the funders of the initiative.
Liz Esley White is a reporter for the Center for Public Integrity in Washington, D.C., which has been investigating this issue along with America Tonight. In a new report, the center found that more than $400 million was spent on 85 ballot initiatives nationwide that were up for a vote in 2014.
What we found was that most of the money in those expensive campaigns came from big business or big trade groups who were largely successful. They won 96% of the time in defending their interests in the ballot measure process.
Shri Kavuru also wants to legalize marijuana in Ohio, but his rival group, Ohioans to End Prohibition, hopes to defeat Responsible Ohio. Kavuru wants to get his own initiative approved for the 2016 ballot. He's also got investors bankrolling his operation to the tune of $500,000.
The problem is that they're trying to block everyone else out, including the people that have actually advanced cannabis culture and the cannabis industry to the level that it's at now, who frankly just don't have millions of dollars to write their own initiative like this.
Kavuru says there's no precedent to restrict marijuana growth.
It's about, do we want to fundamentally change the foundational document of our state to allow corporate takeovers of whole industries? Like, what's next? Water? Corn? Soybeans? I mean, where does it stop?
Well, it stops with the voters. And they have eyes, and they will read the ballot initiative, and they'll decide.
I agree. And I think in November, they will vote no on Responsible Ohio.
Are you high? What are you talking about?
This is the Full Melt.
The Full Melt Show. A marijuana discussion about news, culture, politics, and lifestyle. FullMelt.com. Toll free. 844-420-TALK. 844-420-TALK.
I'm not loud enough. Blazing a trail and then paving a path for the cannabis community. Live from the Canalock Studios with the No Smell Bags. It is another edition of the Full Melt Show. I'm Steve Green. Welcome to the program. Oh, boy. It is another week of the fascinating world inside the 420 community. It's really fascinating, actually. There is a lot of stuff happening. And it's not going to stop happening. It's going to keep happening. The world of cannabis is being turned inside down and up, on its head sometimes. When you change an economic system, when you change the dynamics in business, when you open the barriers to an entire industry in any country, you're going to have winners, and you're going to have losers. You're going to have destructive transformation and constructive transformation. Now, a lot of the times when we talk about this issue, it seems that everybody wants to focus on the constructive side, the stuff that, is being built, the things that are new. This seems to be the focus of the news and what people are interested in inside the cannabis community. But you also have to look at the destructive nature of transforming economic systems. Because this isn't just, when you talk about industry, you're talking about participating inside capitalism, which is our economic system here in the United States, much across the globe. Even the places that consider themselves communist are participating in the capital system. So if you are a capitalist and you don't have an industry because it's prohibited by law, it's deemed so dirty and so underhanded and so negative as far as social consequence goes that you've outlawed it. You said this shall not exist. And I think in the case of marijuana, a lot of boogeyman was propped up around the subject. So badly that even today, satirical websites talk about injecting just one marijuana. Let me just tell you that I don't think, unless you're getting it through a food tube in your, in hospice care or in some kind of situation where you're unable to feed yourself, unless that's being injected through a syringe into your feeding tube, I don't think anybody in the history of America has injected a single, quote-unquote, marijuana. These people the satirical websites are being mistaken for news. That's how ridiculous the propaganda that was built to prop up the drug war, to prop up the prohibition of this industry in this country. Right after it was immediately, kind of held up as a need to win the war. Hemp for victory. If you grew up 80 years ago, hemp for victory was something that you knew what it was. You knew what it meant. Now we just about refer to it in historical context, but then it meant something. I so don't want to get on a soapbox about the military and warring and all that stuff, because this is all part of the system. But it used to be when in this country there was a need, a call, such a drastic, resounding voice for war. It happened many times in our country's existence. It started really in some of the wars that we maintained to build out the country in the Manifest Destiny, right? And, so there's the Mexican-American War, there's the Indian Wars, you've got the Civil War, you've got there's a lot of wars that happened here. And then you come up with a World War I, and then on the back of World War I, created by World War I, World War II. It was like a sequel to a bad movie. All of these wars, every single one that I've mentioned, required sacrifice by, and I'm on the soapbox. I got on the soapbox. You're going to have to let me get off. Let me get it off my chest, and then I'll get down off the soapbox about the war thing. Because it all ties to this subject. It used to be that when you waged war, that sacrifice was demanded of the people. You got to sacrifice. This means you, not just some description of the public in general, like they do now. You need to sacrifice. This means that the implements that we need, the resources and materials we need to create the implements of war, will no longer be used or will be rationed or restricted by the general public. The salvage yards will be devoid of all usable metals. You cannot use certain materials in your building process anymore because those are all going to warfare now. You need to buy war bonds so that, send the boys home. War bonds were a huge thing in World War I and especially World War II. Nowadays, sacrifice isn't made at all by the citizens when they decide to start talking about war. There's no sacrifice being made in any of these wars revolving around Afghanistan, Iraq, especially Iraq. The first, none of these wars were paid for. Nobody made any sacrifices. It was just tacked onto your credit card. That's all it was. It's stuff we can argue about politically later. Same thing goes with the war on drugs. Sacrifices aren't being made. Instead, they're actually being incentivized. Kind of reverse sacrifice. Look, we don't want to give money to the police because we don't want to pay for the giant price tag the policing requires. So as politicians in this country, we'd rather create an incentive for the police to go out and fund themselves. And how are they doing that? With the drug war. Ollie North, how did he get the money for the Iran-Contra scandal? With the drug war. That's how these things happened. A lot of black operations got funded by the drug war in especially the last 30 years. A lot of them, the principal amount of them happening in the 80s. And not even around marijuana. We're talking about cocaine. There is a lot of stuff going on. And this transformation that takes place is going to involve some sacrifice. It's sacrificed by people on all sides. There will be winners and losers amongst both the cannabis community and the policing enforcement agencies. And government as well. We explore all those opportunities coming up next right here on The Full Melt Show.
You're getting The Full Melt.
Hey, it's Steve Green for the Sweet Leaf in Flint, because now getting safe access to medical cannabis patients in Flint, Michigan is never more welcoming. Presenting the Sweet Leaf, a brand new patient experience bringing 12 carefully selected caregivers housed in 9 separate offices to distinctly assist you with their knowledge and reputation for excellent patient care. Classes and training coming soon in the large community room. Check it out in person, 400 South Door Highway, or call 810-259-2571. The Sweet Leaf Center in Flint, 810-259-2571.
Get growing with GrowMax. Indoor, outdoor, beginner, or a warehouse full of Gavitas. Probiotic organics, or huge production with Max Power monster aeroponics systems. We can help you rock it. YouTube GrowMax with 2 X's. Customer service is why we're blowing up. And I'm Dave. My cell number is 906-221-2111. We also specialize in electrical and HVAC and new double-ended bulb technology. 906-221-2111. Get growing. GrowMax.
Got something to hide? Canalock offers discreet and effective storage solutions that destroy odor, so nobody knows. Canalock is a patented charcoal-activated bag that discreetly stores your marijuana. Canalock is made from the same material as military chemical warfare suits. Get yours at Canalock.com. Visit Canalock.com to learn more about no-smell technology.
This summer, discover the one place where your family will create unforgettable memories. Welcome to Jurassic World. Welcome to Jurassic World. Welcome to Jurassic World. Welcome to Jurassic World. Rated PG-13.
Get the Beach Bong ready for sunshine and sandy beaches in Negril, Jamaica this November as the High Times Cannabis Cup moves from Amsterdam to the Caribbean. Your trip starts with the absolute best rates on airfare, hotel, events, and all your Cannabis Cup travel needs at travelcannabiscup.com. Come stay with us, relax in the sun, play in the sand, and smoke down with the cool people, man. Get to the High Times Jamaica Cannabis Cup. Best travel prices right now at travelcannabiscup.com.
It's the Full Melt Radio Show.
Radio show.
It's as easy as clicking the iTunes link right there on the front page. Click that link and subscribe to the program. Look, I mentioned earlier that we're blazing a trail and paving a path for the marijuana community because a lot of people don't understand still to this day about this subject, and they're not going to for quite some time. I've been swimming in, neck deep in this subject for some 5 years now, going on 6 years now. Immersed in the science of cannabis. And I can tell you that just watching from this standpoint, that there are some basic fundamental issues surrounding the subject of marijuana that people are just not familiar with on a national level. Look, just like not everybody's a drinker, not everybody's a smoker when it comes to using cannabis as an adult libation, so to speak, if you're using it recreationally. And let's face it, that's what a lot of people in America do. There's nothing wrong, I would say, and I think most of America agrees with me, with responsible cannabis use. It is not dangerous. It's not deadly. It's not causing people to jump off of buildings. Kids aren't getting their lives wrecked over it unless you're talking about the prohibition. They're getting access to it from the prohibition. They're being run through the mill and having their entire lives ruined over the prohibition, not the drug. You see, the prohibition is causing the ruining of lives at this point. It was never the cannabis. It never was. There are so many mistruths and misguided directions and confusing signs about this subject that it's difficult to move through the subject and understand that you're standing on firm ground, that you have a good grasp of what this means. To many of us inside the community, this is old hat. And so a lot of the stuff that I talk about on the program here and that we bring up as subjects are all old news to me. But to the rest of the world, this is not old news. This is something that they still are grasping and trying to struggle to understand amidst all the confusion and chaos on the billboards, because there's a lot of it. So when I say we're blazing a path, we're really kind of, chopping down the crap, separating the wheat from the chaff, so to speak. And really that's what it comes down to, getting the truth knocked away from the rhetoric. And here's a good example of how I can say that we're blazing that path. So we've been covering that Responsible Ohio thing for quite some time now, ever since its inception back last fall. We've been on top of that subject. Now, this year we've had on Sri Kavuru, who is the he's one of the co-founders of OTEP, Ohioans to End Prohibition. And you heard at the beginning of this program that piece from Al Jazeera America. I played their piece in its entirety with credit to Al Jazeera, who saw the wisdom to go in and examine this issue in Ohio in depth. Now, that little reporter piece was just on the front. They did talk about this some more in the studio, about what this means and what it doesn't mean. And the reason I say we're blazing a path is because we were on this subject months ago, talking about this as an issue. It's just now that mainstream news America is catching up to this. That's how the path is being blazed. You can get the cutting edge of cannabis news right here on this program every single day of the week. And I don't know how many people are out there doing this in that way. If there is something important to this subject, you will hear it on this program the day that it happens. I can promise you that, unless there's some weird, unforeseeable circumstance that would prevent us from doing that. We're focused on this all the time. For me, this is an all-day adventure. From the time I get up in the morning until the time this program ends, I'm focused on this program. And even afterwards, I'm working on this show for the next day. So what I'm trying to tell you is from a reporter standpoint, from a guy who's been in the news media his entire professional career from the age of 14. That's how long I've been doing this radio thing. That I can see the transformation happening. I can see the whole thing from a macro standpoint. Stand back and catch the big view, right? I can see that whole picture. I can saw where it began and detail out its roots. And I can see its eventual leanings, where it's going to. Now, you can't predict the future. I'm not going to say I am a soothsayer or a mind reader. I can't read the minds of people. But I can tell you as a journalist what the trends are, what people are saying in different places, and how the pieces of this puzzle fit together. And so hopefully it's in that knowledge depth, in that knowledge base, in that skill set that you can find yourself some useful information in how this applies to you. And I've said this before and I'll say it again. You don't have to be in the cannabis community to have this affect you, to have this impact your life. It's clearly doing this. You're getting it in the nightly news. You're getting it on the radio. You're getting it on the social media. You're seeing it in blog reports. It's going on. It's happening all around you. You can hardly run from the subject anymore. And so when you talk about somebody like President Obama today, who made an announcement quietly that the news picked up rather loudly, I just got a news flash from CNN. I got to tell you. Walmart says the country's largest retailer is going to remove all Confederate flag merchandise from its stores, says the company. Oh, reactive corporate America. Why did you have the Confederate stuff in there in the first place? That's my question. Okay, not going to pay attention to the news flashes. So listen. Obama today, and I'm just going to look up the story. So like I said, it was a quiet move. But the news media really kind of picked up and ran with it. You'll probably see this story. I'm hoping, I don't know, the 6 o'clock nightly news already aired, and I didn't get a chance to watch it because I've been busy watching Eyes to This Guy. There's severe weather in the area today. And then also paying attention to the Supreme Court. We're standing by for, of course, the Supreme Court of the United States is on the verge of releasing its opinion on the whole gay marriage thing. So that's looming. So I've been watching that ticker. And then also I've been watching the ticker on the Michigan Supreme Court. They're about any day now due to release their opinion about issues surrounding the Medical Marijuana Act. There are 2 cases standing by yet to be opined. And so we're standing by watching for that. In the meanwhile, I catch this story about the president walking back medical research barriers. And I think this is kind of an important piece of information, because if you're trying to do medical research in this country on cannabis, and it's only cannabis. Look, you can do research on cocaine and heroin all day long. The barriers to that research are not difficult. Doing this is a much harder thing. So this is in the Washington Post today. If you didn't catch it on the news, I'll alert you to it now. Story by Christopher Ingram. A long-standing bureaucratic obstacle to privately funded medical marijuana research has just been removed, effective immediately. Until today, if you wanted to conduct marijuana research, you'd need to do the following. And get this. Number 1, submit your study, your proposal, to the Food and Drug Administration for a thorough review of its scientific validity and ethical soundness. Number 2, submit your proposal to a separate public health service, PHS board, which performs pretty much the exact same review as the FDA. Now, what's that redundancy there for? That's what the president answered today. Number 3, get a marijuana permit from the Drug Enforcement Administration. Oh, they're going to laugh at you. Number 4, finally obtain a quantity of medical marijuana via the Drug Supply Program run by the National Institute on Drug Abuse. So the Drug Abuse Agency, the agency primarily charged with getting rid of drug abuse in the country, that's what its funding is dedicated to do, prevent drug abuse. They're the ones responsible for approving a study on marijuana, because they're the ones with the monopoly on medical marijuana grown for research in the United States. As you might imagine, this could be a complicated, time-consuming process, says the story. Step 2, the PHS review, has been a subject of particular consternation among researchers and advocates. That step is not required for research into any other drug, including cocaine and heroin. The PHS review is nearly identical to the one performed by the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration. Sometimes it can take months to complete. In recent years, advocates of overhauling marijuana laws, researchers, members of Congress, and even marijuana legalization opponents, the prohibitionists, have called for the PHS review to be eliminated in the name of streamlining research. This week, the Department of Health and Human Services agreed, determining that the PHS review process is redundant with the FDA review and that it is no longer necessary to support the conduct of scientifically sound studies into the potential therapeutic uses of marijuana. The president has often said that drug policy should be dictated by unimpeded science instead of ideology. And it's great to see the Obama administration finally starting to take some real action to back that up, said Tom Angel of the Marijuana Majority, a pro-legalization group. Even those who oppose legalization agreed. I think it's a sensible change, but people are being delusional if they think that this will result in a flood of research on the drug, said Kevin Sabet. Kevin Sabet manages the Smart Approaches to Marijuana organization. It's an anti-legalization group. But it's a step in the right direction as the development of a non-smoked cannabis medication goes forward. Kevin Sabet has been, I've seen Kevin Sabet in person. We had a marijuana symposium a couple years ago back here in Michigan. It was put on by the Detroit Law. Who is it? I'm sorry. I can't remember now people are going to beat me over the head. It's the law school in Detroit, Detroit School of Law. I don't know. I can't remember the name of the school. But they put this symposium on, and it was rather interesting. Graduate students did this. And Kevin Sabet was there as one of the principal opponents. His entire rhetoric was wrapped around marijuana is not a medicine. It doesn't fit the description of medicine. And it doesn't belong in the hands of doctors giving it to patients. It is not safe. That's his entire position at that point in time. If I was to boil it down, that is what would be left. You get rid of all the water. Now Kevin Sabet has modified his point of view because, you can only be standing as the pepper in the salt shaker or the salt in the pepper shaker for so long before everybody points you out. Hey, why aren't you on board with everybody? How can you just be the only guy saying this stuff? Because we're all of a different opinion and you're not swaying anyone. You can only be in that place for so long before you start to become like the rest. Otherwise, you just look like a fool standing over there in the corner. And remember, he runs a business around the prohibition message. So now he's out there saying that non-smoked uses of medical cannabis are important. There are still more bureaucratic hurdles to marijuana research than to research in any other drug. NIDA's monopoly on the legal marijuana production doesn't exist for any other drug, meaning that heroin and cocaine remain easier for researchers to do work with. The next step should be moving marijuana out of Schedule 1 to a more appropriate category, which the administration can do without any further congressional action, said Angel. Given what the president and surgeon general have already said publicly about marijuana's relative harms and marijuana's uses, it's completely inappropriate for it to remain in a schedule that's supposed to be reserved for substances with a high potential for abuse and no therapeutic value. We're not talking about a blog here. We're not talking about some guy like me on the side ranting in the corner. Oh, goodness. Hang on. Getting weather alerts is what we're getting here today in the studio. This is an important move because I think it's the beginning of what the president may be bending towards before he gets out of office. Like I said, I can't read the tea leaves better than anybody else, but I might see more of the tea leaves than most people. It takes a while to get a good view of all the tea leaves, is all I'm saying. You got to spend some time to get them all gathered together in order to make them make sense relatively. I can't predict the future, but I can tell you that all indications are that before the president gets out of office, he might have an administration that reschedules cannabis out of Schedule 1. And I would say that even given that the remote possibility that doesn't happen, because I think it's a bigger possibility that the president reschedules it than not. Because he's got the full-blown authority to do just that all by himself. He does not need any other further action from Congress to reschedule this. I mean, Congress set the schedule in the first place as it was lined out by Richard Nixon. He's the guy that created that whole damn thing. Back in, 71? But even today, the John Sinclair story back in Ann Arbor, Michigan in, the late 60s, early 70s was a whole story about marijuana being newly forbidden by the federal government and banned as the worst drug and put as the highest target for opposition. It's the chief number one substance. It's up there with any other, there's a few other substances. There's not that many in the Schedule 1 category. There's just really not compared to the rest. John Sinclair gets arrested and sent to prison for essentially giving 2 joints to an undercover officer. That's why the whole story, the song from John Lennon, was written about John Sinclair, and why the hash bash persists as a protest every year on the Diag at the University of Michigan to this day in April. Same thing is happening today, right now. So it's, and we'll talk about that in an upcoming story just after the break. I'll talk about an examination of that, how to, this John Sinclair got, I think it was a couple of years. He got I think he was sentenced was 2 years, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm mistaken and you're listening, call me and tell me I'm wrong. But I think it was 2-year sentence for these 2 joints. It was like a year a joint. It wasn't broken down that way. But he was talking about going to federal prison. There's a guy in a state prison right now in Louisiana for essentially what amounts to about the same thing, about 3 grams of marijuana, which should essentially be a couple of nice joints. He got 13 years. No possibility of parole. State government laws. Mandatory drug minimums. So you walk back medical research and you look towards rescheduling, which I think is going to happen if the president doesn't do it. Congress is going to. If Congress doesn't do it, there'll be pressure by all these other states to change that schedule in their own states, and Congress will have not much choice but to follow suit, just to be the glue that holds the country together on pharmaceuticals. We'll talk more about that thing and the refusal of Governor Bobby Jindal to give clemency to this guy in that state.
The Full Melt.
Got something to hide? Canalock offers discreet and effective storage solutions that destroy odor, so nobody knows. Canalock is a patented charcoal-activated bag that discreetly stores your marijuana. Canalock is made from the same material as military chemical warfare suits. Get yours at Canalock.com. Visit Canalock.com to learn more about no-smell technology.
If you're like us, your pets aren't just animals. They're members of your family. Pet Pain CBD hemp oil drops are great for aging as well as active dogs and cats. Some people are apprehensive about hemp treatments for pets. They ask us, what are you smoking? Absolutely nothing, and neither will your pet. Like other hemp-based products for humans, the allure is all of the benefits of cannabis without any of the high. The CBD oil has shown to rejuvenate the bones, joints, brain, stomach, eyes, and heart. And the drops contain absolutely no corn, wheat, soy, artificial colors and flavors, or preservatives. Pick some up today. Visit PetPain.com or ask for Pet Pain at your local pet store. PetPain.com. CBD relief for your pet.
It's not easy out there, but it can be easier. And when it comes to medical marijuana in Michigan and chronic pain management, Dr. Bob Townsend, renowned for his patient advocacy and deep understanding of how patients and medical marijuana certifications fit together, makes it his hallmark to educate and provide the best holistic treatment for your condition. His knowledgeable staff makes you feel warm and welcome, and Dr. Bob makes you feel well. With locations across the state in Cadillac and Gaylord, Kalamazoo, Marquette, Mount Pleasant, Muskegon, Saginaw, Traverse City, you can't beat the convenience and feeling you get knowing you have someone on your side that cares. Denali Healthcare is on the web at DenaliHealthcareMI.com. Get answers to your holistic health questions or schedule an appointment now by calling 989-339-4464. Chronic pain management and holistic health answers is what they do. It's all they do. DenaliHealthcareMI.com. Get your certification and peace of mind now by making an appointment with Dr. Bob Townsend at 989-339-4464.
Get the beach bong ready for sunshine and sandy beaches in McGrill, Jamaica this November as the High Times Cannabis Cup moves from Amsterdam to the Caribbean. Your trip starts with the absolute best rates on airfare, hotel, events, and all your Cannabis Cup travel needs at TravelCannabisCup.com. Come stay with us, relax in the sun, play in the sand, and smoke down with the cool people, man. Get to the High Times Jamaica Cannabis Cup. Best travel prices right now at TravelCannabisCup.com.
Get growing with GrowMax. Indoor, outdoor, beginner, or a warehouse full of Gavitas, probiotic organics, or huge production with Max Power Monster Aeroponics systems. We can help you rock it. YouTube GrowMax with 2 X's. Customer service is why we're blowing up. And I'm Dave. My cell number is 906-221-2111. We also specialize in electrical and HVAC and new double-ended bulb technology. 906-221-2111. Get growing. GrowMax.
It's the Full Melt Radio Show. If you want to call and talk about the news today, you can join us on the PatPayne.com phone lines. I think I actually switched those up today. I just realized it. So it's the PatPayne.com studios. It's the Canilock phone lines. Get the sponsors confused. So, it's 844-420-TALK. You want to call up and yak. This business about Bobby Jindal. Bobby Jindal's the governor of Louisiana. Louisiana, if I'm not mistaken, just made some drug reforms to their, talking about signing some, criminal law reform, talking about cannabis. I think he was just in the news about this. Signing some reforms about decriminalizing marijuana use for small, low-level offenders, this kind of thing. So much the same as this going on in Texas. So the conservative part of the country, they're starting to struggle with this, and they're still full of negative messaging. At the same time, in the same breath, on a different page in the news, there's this business about Bobby Jindal saying no to a clemency request for people that are this individual who got 13 years, 13 long years for just 3 grams of marijuana. Let me give you the story in detail. This was posted today on the Weed blog. So this is a blog story. According to at least one reputable study, alcohol is 114 times more harmful than marijuana, says this story. Marijuana is also safer than tobacco and pharmaceuticals, both of which are legal. Knowing that, why does Louisiana have such a harsh marijuana law? A man is serving a 13-year prison sentence for possessing 2 marijuana joints in Louisiana. John Sinclair, anyone? That's right. It's a jail bed being reserved for 13 years for a person who possessed 2 joints. There is no possibility for parole for this individual. Thus the clemency request. There are pedophiles that serve less time than that. But sadly, that's how the state of Louisiana treats marijuana. People who go out and target children for sex are viewed less by the criminal justice system in Louisiana than that of a casual marijuana user. That last quote was from me, not from the story. But it's the truth. According to the story, one would think that a governor would learn of this colossal waste of taxpayer dollars and would step up and grant clemency. However, Louisiana's Governor Bobby Jindal had that opportunity but refused to do so. Per Anthony Papa's article on Alternet, Bernard Noble, an individual serving 13 years for possessing 2 marijuana joints, applied for clemency and was recently denied. Negative. Get him out of here. Next. The reason behind the denial was he had not yet served 10 years in prison. Bernard's sentence is a prime example of the draconian nature of the marijuana laws in many states across the country. In stark contrast to Louisiana, many states have decriminalized possession of marijuana for personal use, with the offense being punishable by a fine and with no threat of jail time. I think the article that I was referring to earlier about Jindal possibly being amenable to signing legislation that decriminalized small amounts of marijuana, much as other states have done, like in Ohio and many cities here in Michigan. But he hasn't, I don't think that they've come that far with the legislation yet. It hasn't hit his desk. In the meanwhile, he's denying this clemency request. This is truly a case of injustice, and the vehicle of clemency is totally appropriate here. But for some reason, Governor Jindal and his administration refused to show compassion and follow the recent lead of President Obama, who granted clemency to 22 prisoners this March. No one should serve even 1 minute in a jail cell for marijuana, let alone 13 years. How is this man such a danger to society that he needs to lose his freedom for so long? In Oregon, where I live, I'll be able to possess up to 8 ounces of marijuana starting next week. Now, if you don't know how much an ounce of marijuana is, if you take a baggie, like the standard sandwich baggie, and you fill it full of pot, that's about an ounce. So he could have 8 full sandwich baggies full of weed in Oregon, yet this guy in Louisiana marching off to prison for 13 years. I'll be able to possess up to 8 ounces of marijuana starting next week. So why Louisiana? Why is Louisiana so far behind the times? I don't think I could ever live in Louisiana as a result of their ultra-harsh marijuana laws, or even visit for that matter, no matter how beautiful the state is. So this is how the bloggers are treating this. And look, I think it's appropriate treatment. If I was a news journalist, I might write a similar article, less the opine, and just talked about the facts, and then also presented some opposition. The thing that bugs me about blogs is that a lot of times the blogs are not run by journalists with any credibility of whatsoever. And the reason they're not credible is because they don't follow the ethics of journalism. Journalism is actually a foundational part of our country's Constitution. I mean, it is the reason that we have freedom of the press. We're meant to be a check and a balance against tyranny gone awry in our government, much as the Second Amendment is to gun rights, which is originally intended for the same thing. Hey, if the people have guns and they can fight back, if there's a governor's tyrannical, they have an ability to fight the government back. That really no longer applies today. I'd say the gun enthusiasts who use the Second Amendment to say, hey, we need these guns in case the government comes after us, they're barking up the wrong tree. Because I don't notice if you know or not, but it's probably not inside your gun rights to go purchase a missile fired from a high above plane that is tuned into your location by satellite and GPS coordinates. If the government so wanted to do that, they could just eliminate you. The guns that they could come with are far bigger than the ones that you can acquire. I think the Second Amendment no longer applies as to being able to fight back a tyrannical government. So let's just set that issue aside because I don't want to rile up the gun people. And the gun people get pissed off and they start pointing their guns at you. And I'm not trying to take aim. But I am pointing out fact. Just say that. So the journalists in America are really designed to be a check and a balance against this tyranny. And this is why the freedom of the press and lack of being able to abridge their freedom via the Constitution is intended by our forefathers to make sure that that government doesn't go awry, because you've got investigative journalists, people in the 60 Minutes facet of journalism, doing these investigative reports about, hey, where did all that money go to fix the Capitol Dome? Why is the Capitol Dome over budget? It's not. I'm just making these things up. The Capitol Dome is being fixed. It's only being fixed because a result of a report from 60 Minutes. This is what I'm saying. When the government doesn't do what it's supposed to do or does things it's not supposed to do, it's the journalists of the world that are supposed to go back and make sure that people are aware of this so politically they can act to change it. People don't understand this as part of our government. I mean, journalists, free market journalists, unabridged, unedited journalism is part of the safety and security we have in our country. It's part of what keeps the government in check. It's kind of like separation of powers. It provides some of the same protection against the government gone crazy. And this is what I think many of the people in the Republican Party talk about, so much. Republican Party is very states' rights oriented. So when you talk about marijuana and marijuana legalization, or if the people in that state want to do it, the states' rights people would say, "Look, let us do it. Screw that federal law. We don't give a damn about that thing. We're in control of our laws here, and if it's going against federal law, despite the supremacy clause in the Constitution, states' rights. We ought to be able to say that here, and you can't say anything about it, Mr. Uncle Sam. Go away. Go home. Don't tread on me." Historically, in context, all of this makes sense. But the Prohibition came along as an incentive to make money by industry, as a tool to oppress people, and a lot of these people were originally designed to be foreigners, immigrants, Mexicans specifically. The Latino community in that day and era were kind of labeled in the same place, whether it's Chinese people, all of the Asian people for that matter, and also the Indian people and the black people. The people of color. And then you have these, jackholes out down in South Carolina shooting up churches full of black people trying to start a race war, which is already well underway. It's been underway for a long time. I don't know what cereal box you crawled out of. But let's just face it, that race war has been going on for a long time, needlessly, despite the fact that the North won. I mean, these people are still hanging that to Confederate flag wherever they can go. Flags mean a lot, people. Flags are not just flags. Oh, it's just a flag. Get over it. If we can't get over a stupid childish flag. No, it's not a flag. It's a concept that lost to a war, the bloodiest war in American history. Facts. Take it to the bank. Go check it at the Record House. Google it. I'm telling you, I'm right. Coming back with more next.
You're getting the full melt.
Got something to hide? Canalock offers discreet and effective storage solutions that destroy odor, so nobody knows. Canalock is a patented charcoal-activated bag that discreetly stores your marijuana. Canalock is made from the same material as military chemical warfare suits. Get yours at canalock.com. Visit canalock.com to learn more about no-smell technology.
Imagine a world where patients can use marijuana like any other medicine. The Marijuana Patients Organization challenges the status quo by helping our neighbors to enjoy a better quality of life. Visit the MPO at marijuanapatients.org and enjoy informative articles, engaging debates, and information about treatments, doctors, and dispensaries in your area. Over 50,000 people have registered at marijuanapatients.org since 2010. Join us at the Marijuana Patients Organization today, marijuanapatients.org.
Hey, it's Steve Green for the Sweet Leaf in Flint, because now getting safe access to medical cannabis patients in Flint, Michigan is never more welcoming. Presenting the Sweet Leaf, a brand new patient experience, bringing 12 carefully selected caregivers housed in 9 separate offices to distinctly assist you with their knowledge and reputation for excellent patient care. Classes and training coming soon in the large community room. Check it out in person, 400 South Door Highway, or call 810-259-2571. The Sweet Leaf Center in Flint, 810-259-2571.
If you're like us, your pets aren't just animals. They're members of your family. Pet Pain CBD hemp oil drops are great for aging as well as active dogs and cats. Some people are apprehensive about hemp treatments for pets. They ask us, what are you smoking? Absolutely nothing, and neither will your pet. Like other hemp-based products for humans, the allure is all of the benefits of cannabis without any of the high. The CBD oil has shown to rejuvenate the bones, joints, brain, stomach, eyes, and heart. And the drops contain absolutely no corn, wheat, soy, artificial colors and flavors, or preservatives. Pick some up today. Visit petpain.com or ask for Pet Pain at your local pet store. Petpain.com. CBD relief for your pet.
This summer, discover the one place where your family will create unforgettable memories. Welcome to Jurassic World. Welcome to Jurassic World. Welcome to Jurassic World. Welcome to Jurassic World. Rated PG-13.
It's the Full Melt Radio Show. Where we come to you every Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Please like us on Facebook. It's right there on the front page of thefullmelt.com. So we're talking about the news in the cannabis world as it evolves. The winners, the losers, who are they? Well, of course, the losers have been the consumers at this time. Remember, the war on drugs is not a war on drugs. It's just what they call it because so they can sell it to you. Oh, be tough on crime. War on drugs. Let me just share a secret with you. The war on drugs is not a war on drugs. The war on drugs is a war on people. It's a war on citizens declared by your own government. And that's what's wrong. And that's why free speech and journalism is a fundamental part of the foundation of our country. Because lest it were for people like me telling you these things, pointing these things out as they come up, because it's so easy to get lost in the details of life. Slavery was outlawed by the South, or by the North, back during the Civil War. But we still have corporate slavery. It's still going on. They've just transformed it and got you to pay attention to something else. They still got their way with the slavery thing. It's just not black people anymore. It's poor people. They just switched, they played the shell game on you. You weren't looking at it. You weren't paying attention. It wasn't widely reported, but I'm telling you now, that's what they did. Some will disagree. If you want to get into that argument another day, we'll talk about it. We'll get into the details, the nitty-gritty of how they switched around slavery so that it's, the new Jim Crow. It really is. Orange is the new black. I mean, that's what it is. Pennsylvania firing up. Got to tell you about this story in Pennsylvania because there's been some mudslinging going on in the conservative states. It's not just the Jindals of the world. It's not just, the conservative Texans. Yee-haw! Shoot 'em up marijuana big time. Pow, pow, pew, pew, pew. It's not just them. You've got the Mennonite people of the world. You've got the conservative areas of the Amish and the Presbyterians. I mean, it's big Bible Belt in Pennsylvania. People don't realize it, but I got relatives from Pennsylvania. They're thumping on that Bible. Let me tell you. And I can't even get on the religious soapbox because that'll take 2 hours by itself. But let it be known that if truly you're a Christian and you adhere to Christian fundamentals, you would not be oppressing the people that are supposed to be lifted up in Christ's name. I'll just tell you that right now. If you're on the path of belittling homosexuals or picking apart somebody who happens to have cannabis in their life, or any drugs for that matter, you're not doing the work of Christ. Just tell you that. And I'll end that soapbox right there. I'm not even going to climb up on that box because it'll get me going. It'll wind me up. As if I wasn't wound already. Big Pharma backing both sides in Pennsylvania. That's the story headline as it appears today inside the .com world of, who is this? WITF.org. It must be WITF must be a public broadcasting outlet. I've never seen a .org attached to call letters unless it was. This is a channel. It's got to be 50 years of celebrating 50 years, so it must be the public TV station out there. Pennsylvania marijuana debate in Harrisburg. Dateline, Harrisburg. A Pennsylvania representative who said he won't bring a medical marijuana bill up for a vote has become a target of marijuana activists on social media who say his opposition is being purchased by the pharmaceutical companies. Oh, Big Pharma. Let me just tell you. I'll just clue you in on something. The guys over there at GW Pharmaceuticals started their business in the late 60s and early 70s. Guess what? That's when Prohibition went down, isn't it? You connect the dots. This isn't really hard, folks. Connect the dots and color in between the lines. And you'll see clearly who's leading this market, where the transformation's taking place, and how they're distracting you with other crap. This social, conservative, liberal thing, that's all a bunch of buoy. That's all a bunch of smoke and mirrors to get you to argue with other people while they're busy economically transforming things behind your back and then hitting you with the news later while you're busy arguing. That's what's going on. So GW Pharmaceuticals had a start in this long ago. Long ago. And they've been holding their cards tight, close to the vest. Until very recently, haven't they? When they started really doing the work of getting the medical science about marijuana done in other countries and then bringing it here to the FDA to fast track into existence. so they can profit off the very prohibition that they were part of identifying and creating. It wasn't just a prohibition. I mean, they acted inside. The prohibition was already in place by other people. But these people sought a method by which to take it over. And so there's a lot of people who want to point immediately to Big Pharma and say, oh, Big Pharma. Oh, you politicians took money from Big Pharma. That's why you're not signing these bills. This article points out that that's not exactly true because Big Pharma's giving money to both sides. They're hedging their bet. You see, it's like a hedge fund. If I can't make money with this investment, I can make up for its losses over here with this investment. And if that investment goes wrong, the first one will be right. I'll bet on both sides. I win either way the market goes. So it's, Big Pharma's bad from a number of standpoints. Are they profiteering, greedy thieves? Yes. I can tell you, as a person who takes a $100 pill every single day, it's a $100 pill. Did you add that up? That's $3,000 a month to take this one prescription. Tell me they're not greedy, thieving bastards, because they clearly are. I have mixed feelings about Big Pharma because it's not always safe and effective, and things are not always, just prescribed on label. They're prescribed off label for other issues. Doctors do it all the time. Nobody bitches about that. Nobody hauls them before a board. Takes their license away, sanctions them. It doesn't happen. You know why? Because Big Pharma is in cahoots with the government. The government's in cahoots with the doctors, and the doctors in cahoots with everybody. They're all working together at this. You're not going to beat that game. But Big Pharma has had their, like I said, they've been waiting. They're very patient. They're over there investing that money, and now it's a publicly traded company. People are investing in it. It's just like marijuana.com. A lot of publicly traded companies investing in marijuana now. You're not going to stop that ball rolling. Once capitalism's got its greedy, ugly legal hooks into it, this industry will modify and transform greatly. Here's another story that relates around that. So when you're talking, just to wrap up this, because I don't have much time left in the program. This thing in Pennsylvania is not true. If you look at Big Pharma in Pennsylvania, the rest of the story talks about the people. A lot of the people have voted for medical marijuana in conservative legislative Pennsylvania got more money from Big Pharma than did the people who voted against it. They're still confused by the messaging, by the prohibitionist messaging. This is an education war. It's a baby steps process. Follow the baby steps. Don't try and take too big a bite because you're going to choke on it, I'm telling you. So this other story, I got to get through this real quick, too, because it all relates. Now I'm going to forget what it was. That's just how it works. So back to... The story was about Colorado and the price of marijuana decreasing. There's two stories out of Colorado today. One about a research study that says, hey, guess what? After the numbers are in, after 18 months of legalization in Colorado, we've studied a bunch of factors. Look, it's part of the law. They have to study these issues in Colorado. And the news is out. There are no more adults, except for a scant percentage, a tiny, less than 1%. Using marijuana in Colorado than there was before legalization, when it was all black market. No more adult use. Exactly the opposite of what the opposition has been claiming for years. This experiment's going to blow up in your face. Colorado's going to fall off the map. The earth is not round, it's flat. You're going to drive that boat off the edge of the earth. It's all boo-ha. It's all nonsense. It's all greed is what that is. Also, kids in marijuana, it relates in the same studies, the use by kids has gone down. You know why? Because they're not getting it from the local drug dealer anymore. The adults aren't willing to give it to you because they're going to get in trouble now. They're trying to do this without being in trouble. The adults aren't doing it anymore. They can't go to the drugstore and get it. They can't go to the pot shop and get it. They can't go. There's no drug dealers anymore. You know why? Because they regulated the industry robustly. So kids' use gone down, adult use maintained the same. It's just in a healthy way instead of a destructive way, right? The other news out of Colorado is the retail price of marijuana has gone down. It's dropped drastically. Back when they first did legalization there, when the first retail legal shops opened, $300 to $400 an ounce if you bought the whole ounce. $300 to $400 retail plus tax. But then... And now it's been reduced to that, half of that in recent months. And now it's even dropped further. price of cannabis going down. You know why? Because production's gone up. And I just told you the other story said that use has maintained as the same. That's a simple supply and demand economics figure, isn't it? When you have robust, healthy regulation, you spur business and industry, you collect taxes, and you push prices down. Isn't that what we want in lovely America? Come back and see us tomorrow again here on The Full Melt.
The Full Melt Show is a production of TFM Media.